He was my mentor until he took my proposal, renamed it, and filed the patent without me. I found out at the celebration party when he said, "You should be proud. You helped." I just smiled, then quietly pulled out a flash drive. Timestamped drafts, emails, voice notes. The legal team took it. The party didn't last long. I don't talk about this in real life. Most people think I got lucky, that I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. They see my name on the patent now and assume someone smart finally noticed me. But that's not what happened. And I've never really said what did. It started like it usually does, with trust. I was fresh out of grad school when I got the job. It wasn't glamorous. The office was a repurposed warehouse with bad lighting and old coffee machines, but they had a solid reputation in applied energy research. I wasn't expecting anything fancy. I just wanted to work on real problems, not just academic simulations. My manager assigned me to a senior researcher for mentorship, said I'd learn more that way than just reading manuals. That guy was Dr. Klein. He was maybe late 40s, smart in a casual way, confident without being loud. Everyone liked him. When he walked into a room, people paid attention, but he never forced it. I respected him immediately. He didn't act superior. At first, I still remember how careful I was around him in the beginning. I didn't want to come off like some know-it-all grad student. I asked for feedback, listened when he gave it, and took his advice seriously. I worked hard, way harder than anyone expected. I wasn't trying to outshine anyone, I just loved the work. Then I started developing something new. The idea came out of a dead-end project. Everyone else had dropped it, but something about it kept bothering me. I felt like there was more there. So I kept poking at it during my own time. Nights, weekends, lunch breaks. I rewrote the model from scratch, tossed the old assumptions, and started seeing results. It wasn't perfect, but it was promising. I started sharing small pieces with Dr. Klein, just to see what he thought. He'd say things like, or let's look at that later. Never much more. I didn't push him. I assumed he was just busy, and maybe I was being annoying. But he kept asking me to send over my notes. Drafts, simulations. Sometimes he'd say, just for documentation. I trusted that. I wish I hadn't. Over time, the idea became something solid. I created a full prototype framework, documented the algorithm, outlined the energy transfer process. I even made a basic demo. Everything I had, I stored twice, once on the work server because that was policy, and once privately. Not because I didn't trust people, just because I didn't want to lose progress. My habit of backing up everything started in college after I lost a thesis chapter in a laptop crash. It saved me then. It saved me again now. Anyway, after months of work, I thought maybe I was ready to present it formally. I emailed Dr. Klein and asked if he thought it was patent-worthy. He didn't answer for a few days. Then he said, "Let's wait. Needs more testing." I listened. I was cautious about jumping the gun. The next few weeks were quiet. He didn't ask for more updates, barely responded to messages. I figured he was busy with other projects, so I kept working solo, polishing the system. I even wrote out a sample proposal and stored it in a private folder. It had my name, date, and every key feature of the process. Then came the company-wide event. I remember it clearly because I almost didn't go. I had a headache that day. Thought about skipping it, but my team lead encouraged me. Said it was a tech showcase and someone in the department had done something cool. It sounded vague, like all company events do. I walked in, grabbed some soda, stood near the back. They had finger food and bad music playing over the speakers. I wasn't really paying attention. Then someone from the executive team took the mic and started talking about a breakthrough that redefines our approach to energy optimization. I felt my throat tighten. Then they started showing slides. My slides, well, modified versions. But I knew the layout. I knew the equations. I knew the order because I designed it that way for clarity. Everything was mine. Except now it wasn't. They announced the patent was filed under Dr. Klein's name. Sole inventor. He came up to speak, and said some crap about how no one works alone and how brilliant young minds are the future. Then he smiled at me and said, "You should be proud. You helped." That word, helped, stuck in my chest like a nail. Everyone clapped. I didn't. I couldn't. My heart was beating so fast, I thought I might pass out. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I just walked to the back, found the legal counsel, some guy I barely knew, and handed him a flash drive. It had everything: emails, versions of the proposal with timestamps, voice memos with date-stamped metadata, even a screen recording from a month earlier showing me walking through the code. He asked what it was. I said, "Evidence." Then I left. Didn't wait to hear the rest of the speeches. Didn't eat. I walked straight to my car and sat in silence for almost an hour. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't really sleep for the next few days either. But I didn't have to do anything else. I already did everything I needed to. Quietly, carefully, years before I knew I'd need to. They called me into HR later that week. The tone had changed. I wasn't junior staff anymore. I was the inventor. The legal team was already doing internal checks. Once they saw the flash drive contents and matched it to file logs, internal emails, and security metadata, it was over. I wasn't told the details, but I heard things. Dr. Klein was placed on leave. His badge stopped working. His name was pulled from the project. Later, it was pulled from the company site. They refiled the patent. My name went first. No one said anything to me publicly. No speech. No plaque. But people started treating me differently. And Dr. Klein? I never saw him again. But I still have the flash drive, just in case. For a while, it seemed like things were done. The company quietly made the changes. My name went on the patent. Dr. Klein vanished. And everyone acted like that was that. But things didn't stay quiet. A few weeks later, I got an email from an unknown address. Just one line. "You made a big mistake." No name. No signature. Nothing else. I stared at it for a long time. I knew who it was from. No one said it directly, but people talk. Word had spread that Klein was suspended pending internal review. I also heard he was trying to fight it, saying the work was his, that I stole his drafts. It didn't make sense. He didn't have anything I hadn't already logged with timestamps. But that didn't stop him from trying. What I didn't expect was how cold the office got. Not officially. My team lead still gave me projects. HR sent out a bland email about acknowledging new contributors. But people were different. A few researchers who used to chat with me in the kitchen stopped saying anything at all. One of the senior engineers, someone who used to work closely with Klein, gave me this look every time we crossed paths, like I was some problem that ruined things. Some people clearly saw me as the traitor. They didn't care about evidence. Klein had been there for years. I'd been there for barely over one. Loyalty didn't follow logic. And then one day, I got locked out of a shared drive. It was subtle, just one project folder. But it was one I needed for a current task. I asked IT. They said my access was adjusted and to talk to my manager. I did. She said it was a precaution while legal finished their review. I asked if I did something wrong. She said no, but avoided eye contact. That night, I pulled up the backup logs from my personal server, just to be sure. Everything was intact, still safe. But something about all of it started to feel bigger than I realized. I was alone in this. I didn't have allies. Klein had spent years building relationships, helping people with their careers, covering for them when they made mistakes. That kind of loyalty doesn't go away just because someone files a patent. He built a network. And now that I'd broken it, even with proof, people were choosing sides. About 2 months in, I got called back into HR. This time, it wasn't a warm meeting. They asked me about tone in some emails, about whether I had ever discussed projects outside the company. They pulled up an old Slack message, months old, where I'd vented about wasting my talent. It was vague, nothing confidential, but now it was being reviewed. I realized then that someone was feeding them things. Someone wanted me gone. Quietly, legally. Not only was Klein fighting back from the outside, he still had people on the inside. I stopped trusting anyone, started eating lunch in my car, stopped going to after-work events. I kept everything on record, every project version, every communication, just in case. Then, one morning, I opened my work inbox and saw a formal notice. Subject: Third-party patent challenge. Dr. Klein had filed an official dispute. He was claiming prior authorship, that I had helped him develop his system, that my timestamps didn't prove anything because I had access to his files, that it had all started with him, and I had taken his rough idea and developed it while cutting him out. He had hired outside counsel. The company legal team reached out. They wanted a formal deposition, a digital forensics review, an internal audit of every file I'd ever touched. They weren't protecting me anymore. They were protecting themselves. I wasn't just a witness now. I was part of a legal battle, and I was starting to understand this wasn't over. It hadn't even really started yet. After the notice of the patent dispute, everything slowed down and sped up at the same time. I was pulled into meetings with the company's outside legal team. They weren't friendly. They weren't mean either. Just cold, focused. They asked me to explain every detail, how I developed the concept, where the first idea came from, what conversations I had with Dr. Klein, who else knew about it. Every meeting was recorded. Every word was logged. Then they asked to see my home backups. That's when it hit me. I wasn't just a victim to them anymore. I was a liability. They didn't care that Klein had stolen from me. They cared that this could blow back on the company. And since Klein was gone, the next weak point was me. I gave them the backups. All of it. I didn't hold anything back. But something didn't sit right. They said they were going to have a neutral forensic firm review the metadata on the files to verify origin. I agreed, but I kept copies. Multiple copies, actually. I uploaded encrypted backups to 2 cloud accounts, gave 1 copy to my older brother in another city, and mailed a USB to a friend I trusted. Something told me this wasn't going to stay honest. And I was right. A week later, I got a strange request. Legal emailed me saying they had reviewed my flash drive and couldn't verify one of the key folders, the folder with my full original draft of the proposal and the prototype script. They said it had corrupted metadata and looked recently altered. It wasn't. That folder was the most untouched of them all, dated months before the patent was even mentioned. That's when I knew something was wrong. Someone had tampered with the copy I gave them. I checked the clone I sent to my brother. All metadata was intact, time-stamped, original. I didn't say anything to legal. I just stopped trusting them. Then a second twist, an email from a burner Proton Mail account. Subject: You weren't the only one. Inside was a PDF, just 5 pages. It was from someone who used to work at the company. No name, no return address. But the pages were scanned notes and emails from 4 years ago, another employee, another proposal, also filed under Dr. Klein's name. Same pattern. Young researcher, promising project, vague credit then silence. That person had quit, quietly, but they had documented everything. And apparently, I wasn't the first person Klein had stolen from, just the first one to push back. Whoever sent it had been watching. Maybe they were still connected to someone on the inside. Maybe it was one of the people still working there who couldn't speak out, but wanted the truth out anyway. I printed the file, put it in my drawer. It was a backup plan. I was building a lot of those lately. But here's the biggest twist so far, and I still don't know what it means. I got a call from a university professor I hadn't spoken to in 2 years. He said someone had contacted him asking questions about a project I'd done during my grad thesis, a project that had nothing to do with Klein, nothing to do with the company. He told me this because the person asking had identified themselves as part of a private patent investigation firm. They were digging hard, trying to find something, anything to discredit me, maybe even something they could twist to say I had a history of idea theft. This was bigger than just a company patent now. Someone had money behind this. And I wasn't just defending a project anymore. I was defending my name. After the professor warned me, I started making a list. Everyone I'd ever worked with. Every professor, advisor, teammate, coworker, anyone who had ever collaborated with me. I reached out to a few I trusted and gave them a heads up, just in case someone came asking questions about me. Most were surprised, but said they'd help if needed. I didn't tell them everything, just enough so they understood someone was trying to ruin my name. One of my old lab partners from university messaged me a few days later. He said a guy in a suit showed up at his office claiming to be a research historian gathering information about early AI-powered models for energy use. He showed a fake badge, asked odd questions. Things like, would you say my name was more of an assistant or more of a support role during the thesis? That was the question. That's the phrase they were planting. They wanted to rewrite my history, just like Klein tried to rewrite my work. I documented every one of these contacts, names, dates, places, created a timeline. I printed emails. I started saving screenshots of everything, even internal Slack conversations. I bought a second phone and used it only for recordings and backups. I wasn't paranoid. I was careful, because I knew the moment I stopped being careful, they'd win. Then, out of nowhere, I was invited to a lunch meeting with one of the board advisors. He was one of the untouchables, one of those gray-haired, polite but cold executives who didn't normally speak to anyone under the director level. I'd never even been in the same room with him before. We met in a private dining room 2 blocks from the company office. He shook my hand, sat down, and didn't order food. He said, "This situation is getting messy. For everyone." I didn't respond. He said, "There's a lot of talent in you. People notice. But sometimes the fight isn't worth the win. Not long term." I just listened. My hands were still. He slid an envelope across the table. Thick. I didn't touch it. He said, "We'd be willing to help you move forward. Quietly. No more stress. Just clean exit papers, a fair bonus, and your name stays where it is." He smiled when he said that last part, like it was a gift, but I knew what it really meant. A quiet payoff. No more noise. No more digging. I didn't touch the envelope. I said, "I'll think about it." He said, "Smart." I walked out with empty hands. The next day, my access to the internal patent documentation folder was revoked. No explanation, just a locked page where there used to be files. Then my email history, 3 years worth, was archived and restricted. I asked IT. They said it was routine auditing. It wasn't. A week after that, someone broke into my car. Nothing was taken. Not my laptop. Not my backup drive. Not even the cash in the glove box. But the glove box was open. The trunk was too, as if someone had searched it. I didn't file a report. I just bought a storage unit across town and started moving everything there, notes, drives, old computers, anything connected to the invention. I didn't want it in my apartment anymore. I didn't want it in my car. It was bigger than just me now. I'd thought this was about a stolen patent. Now, I wasn't so sure. Maybe Klein had just been the first layer, and maybe someone else had been using him the whole time. I didn't sleep much after the break-in. There's a kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from being tired. It comes from knowing you're being hunted, even if no one's holding a weapon. I stopped going out, stopped trusting anyone. My world got very small, but I stayed sharp. Every day, I added to the timeline I'd started. Names, meetings, emails. Every time someone tried to change a detail, I found the proof it was false. I turned that document into a map showing how Klein first took my work and how it was protected, hidden, then turned into something public without my name. And then how, when I fought back, they tried to erase me. Quietly. What they didn't know is that I wasn't alone anymore. The person who sent me the PDF, he reached out again, this time with a name. Eric. He used to be on Klein's team 5 years ago. Same story. Same kind of theft. But when he tried to fight back, HR buried it. They offered him a quiet severance, told him to sign an NDA. He did. He needed the money. But he never let go. He kept records too. We met at a diner halfway between our cities. He brought a black binder filled with notes, emails, copies of lab logs. I showed him mine. It was the same pattern, just different names. Klein had done it at least 3 times. He was a pro at it. Find young talent, isolate their ideas, move the credit up the chain, and shut the door behind them. And the company knew. They covered it. They got the patents. Klein got the credit. And when things got messy, they erased the noise with NDAs and job offers. Eric had an idea. We compiled everything, our documents, screenshots, voice recordings, even the photos of the folder they said I corrupted. We wrote it all up into a formal timeline. We called it the pattern. 62 pages, fully sourced. And then we sent it, not to the company, not to legal, not to some internal ethics officer who'd just sweep it up. We sent it to every board member's personal email and to the press. We picked 2 tech journalists, ones with a record of exposing corporate theft. We gave them the documents. We gave them the names. We gave them the whole story, dates, files, recordings. They fact-checked every line. And then they published it. On a Monday morning, the article dropped. Full front-page digital spread. The hidden pattern. How a respected researcher stole millions in IP with his company's blessing. Within 2 hours, my phone started blowing up. Within 6, the company locked down external access. By noon, every press outlet was reporting it. They couldn't deny it. There were too many files, too many records, too many of us. The fallout was fast. Dr. Klein's credentials were pulled. The university where he'd been set to teach part-time dropped him. 2 old patents he'd filed were placed under review. More former employees came forward, 4 in the first week. HR reps were called in for depositions. One quietly resigned. But the board didn't get off clean either. Turns out, 2 of them had signed off on internal memos pushing those NDAs, documents we included in the report. The company's stock dropped 17% in 3 days. Shareholders demanded an emergency audit. By the end of the month, the company's legal counsel was replaced. Half the board was gone. And the CTO, who clapped the hardest at that original celebration party, was named in a class action lawsuit. And me? I didn't go back to work. I didn't want to, but I did get something. A letter from the patent office. They had conducted a formal review based on new information and testimony. The final ruling. The invention belongs solely to me. My name, no one else's. That same day, I got a second letter from the company. They were offering a settlement for what they called the personal and professional harm caused. The number was big, more than I expected. I took it, not because I needed it, but because I earned it. I used part of it to launch a small lab, independent, no board, no corporate strings. I hired 2 of the other people who'd been pushed out like I was. I kept every copy of the pattern framed in the entry hallway. As for Klein, I heard he moved to another city, tried consulting, but his name was too poisoned now. No one would work with him. The patent board put a note next to his name on all filings. Under ethics review, pending investigation. He was never arrested, but he lost everything he used to steal from us. And I didn't say a single word to him, not even when he emailed me months later. All it said was, "You win." I didn't reply. He never deserved my voice again.